I've actually got a little bit after 5. Thank y'all for patience, but I can't claim on my drugs this week. Last time I felt bad. Sorry, after 6. So we will get started. What we'll do is, like as we thought, we'd like to have a moment of silence. And unfortunately, I have some very bad news. I understand that we've lost one of our own. Someone may know, Catherine Flynn. She was our Macon Middle School. She was with your department, Paul, EC.
Yes.
And I think she'd been battling cancer, am I right? And it sounded like, unfortunately, did she just lose the battle?
She did.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago.
Okay. So everybody keep her in your thoughts and mind, especially as far as the family and all that, because it's never an easy thing to do. So I would ask everyone to stand, please, and we'll observe. And Tommy, if you would also, Mr. Catherine, tell us about one of the reasons we always like to have the moment of silence.
I'm lost too. I've been on the road for 24 days. That's got to. But our veterans are, we just had Memorial Day not long ago, and we run into veterans all over this country. And we send these young men off to battle all the time, and they're in harm's way, and at least we should remember them. And something that just, I was out in Oklahoma, and I happened to drive through the Moore area, just I would see the school and whatever, and unless you've seen that in person, you can watch it on TV all you want. But it's been a month, and those people were just running around like in a day. That is the most horrible thing I think I have ever seen. So let's keep those people in our thoughts also.
One more side. Thank you. If you would, we normally have children come, but I don't think this time we're able to. So if we would, I'll ask Tommy to start us off with Pledge of Allegiance also.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think first on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our regularly scheduled meeting from May 28th. I think all the board members had a chance to got a copy and had a chance to review those. Were there any questions, changes?
Motion to be approved.
I have a motion to approve. Here a second. I have a motion saying all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. As far as our spotlight on people and programs, I don't think we have any recognition, Dr. Duncan, or historical highlights.
No,
Is that right?
Thank you.
And that's all. Mr. Harrell's here, so Bill, you're first up. So I think it's Gilliam's hope.
Mine, I'm gonna step out after I'm done, so I'll stand close to the door. So as not to do it any injustice, I'm gonna probably read from my crib notes so I don't forget anything, but most of you are already familiar with Gilliam's Promise that was started in the late fall, August of 2010. And it was a result of a tragedy that unfortunately occurred to the founding father, as I call him, of Gilliam's Promise. And if you'll bear with me just a moment, in the fall of 2009, a tragedy occurred on one side of the mountain when Mr. Bill Cheney's grandson, Gilliam, took his own life with a gun. He was infested and riddled with a serious drug addiction and could not withstand the demon influences. However, the Cheneys decided not to let this tragedy go without a positive influence on other young people. Mr. Cheney and I had several visits in the following months, and he, with many other accomplished leaders in that community, decided to form a drug-free coalition in August of 2010 known as Gilliam's Promise. Mr. Cheney also made a commitment that Gilliam's Promise would just be a catalyst of a healthy epidemic and resource for young people that wanted to stand strong against the pressures of poisons and influences of drugs. The initial phase of implementing this program in Franklin, because of its much extended population, is a camp of 25 students starting in middle school with a vision to expand through the 12th grade in the near future as it develops. Because of its lesser populations, Highlands began middle school through 12th at one time. first graduating class of 25 students this year, first graduating class consisted of 25 students, and this year they'll have over 35. The program offers scholarship opportunities for those kids that want to remain drug-free. They'll have opportunities once a month during the school year, not to conflict with school, and I think Mr. Jetter can speak to that. Well, no time of conflict with the curriculum at the school. This is after-school opportunities. In the Highlands, it is on Sunday afternoons. Here it may vary. During those meetings, which are required attendance, they do get different guest speakers about different ideas and opportunities. It is also a team building and leadership opportunity. This summer, what will happen that hasn't happened since 2011, but will happen this year for the kickoff in Franklin, Blue Ridge, and in Highlands again. We will combine all three schools and take them to Montreat College for a leadership camp and team building camp for about 4 days. It'll run from the 17th to the 20th. That is not cost prohibitive because it is taken care of at no cost for the kids. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I think we would again be remiss if we didn't seize the opportunity in Franklin. I'm very proud to serve on that board that we have developed. We have 7 members, and that includes obviously myself, Marcy Holland, Brian Rowers, Gary Brown, Pam Cave, Jim Frost, and I hope that I haven't left anybody out. Did I count everyone? Oh, excuse me, and John Short. I think I've counted everyone now. That is the board that we will start with, the board of directors. But we are currently again developing and building the steering committee, which is, some of you may not know it yet, you will serve on it. Actually, we will come and talk to you because we know that there's a large brain trust here. There will be great contributions to the committee. We've spoken to the principals at the middle school level, at the high school level, and Dr. Baldwin as well, Dr. Duncan. I think Stephanie is very familiar with it, and most of the senior board is very familiar with it. Anyone that is not, I'm going to hush now and ask you to ask any questions, and hopefully I'll be on with those answers. If not, I will retrieve.
Anybody?
Appreciate Bill, what y'all doing. Mr. Cheney, you roll in.
Mr. Taylor, do you see students being enrolled? Is it this summer or this fall?
It has actually taken flight a lot faster than we expected it to in Franklin. When we started a few months ago, we didn't expect the funding to quite be there this first year, however it is. And we will be offering $1,000 per child per year to be earned all the way through their 12th grade year, so that they will be put into escrow and they will walk away as they graduate to any college or higher education institution of their own choosing with that money. That obviously will be afforded to them to offset the costs in their first year of college.
And there'll be 25 of these students selected at the middle school this year.
Yes, sir. There's already been 12 that were nominated by the faculty and administration at MBI, rising 7th graders that will be going to the leadership camp. That obviously opens up for a few more slots. There will be a blind application process for them to fit in order to not overwhelm ourselves with the initial funding.
Could a person participate in this as well as the New Century Scholars Program?
No, sir. That is one of the very few disqualifiers.
Okay.
We do not want those two to conflict with one another at all, so we're going to make every means necessary to avoid that confrontation, and we don't think it'll ever come to that because we work very well together. We've sat down several times, myself and Pam, and discussed all the ins and outs and make sure that we don't meet any crossroads in there.
I'm not real familiar with this, but what's the criteria for selecting these students?
Well, just a few things. The students, as I said before, can earn up to $1,000 initially. The club meets 1 day a month during the school year, not to interfere, and students will obviously having to pass that. They will have a grade point average of C+ or better. They cannot have any more than 3 unexcused absences. They will be involved in a set number of volunteer hours. They will be involved in at least 1 extracurricular activity after school over and above. Those are just starters.
So does the teachers pick the children that'll be in the program, or?
No, ma'am. Initially, the faculty did in order to get started. The faculty at MBI did participate in nominating some of those identifiable leaders for this program. But from now on out, once we open up the application, everyone is going to be encouraged to apply.
Is Gillum's hope online, like Gillum's promise is, if she wanted to go online, she could?
Not as of yet. Like I said, we've started, it has taken such a rapid pace, we have not got there yet. Gillum Promise is online, you can go and look. A lot of the same criteria, however, we are going to have to tailor it because of the location in Franklin so that it meets our needs.
Any other questions? Chief Harrell? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you
I'm
for
glad
your time.
to know it's going well. Next on our spotlight is, I think, Mr. Price. You know, you're here. I think we, something, probably had a chance to get,
Sent an email out.
yeah, Bill sent an email, gone out, and I don't know if Tommy had a chance to look it over.
Here it is anyway, this is what the proposal, I bought 5 copies anyway.
Right.
You have it all, I mean, and try to get you prepared, because I don't want to hold up all your time. Mr. Duncan's been nice enough to talk to me for the last, since March, so I'm trying to, hopefully if I had a chance to kind of oversee it the other day. But what I do, I represent a utility refund company, and I kind of go over it real quick. What we do, we go back through on bills that's already been paid, and we look for discrepancies. I didn't realize it when I got in this industry. There's 80% of all bills to schools, manufacturers, everything are misbilled. So there's money on the table most of the time. 20% of the time there's not. So what we do, I'll just kind of go through it real quick. I'll go through, if you look on page 2 or 3, we go back and we do contact discrepancies, misbillings, tax deals. We look for any, and we try to remove anything that's meters are even off. And I know that the school budget with the electric, and I talked to Mr. Duncan, got a high power bill, telephone bills, and everything else. It really adds up. And we're allowed to go back 3 years. Is the cutting point, is the cutoff point. So anything over 3 years going back, we never can apply for again. And if the company I work with, what I really like about it is we do electricity, natural gas, water and sewer, telecom, internet, and data. And I think we can also check the fuel bills to see if there's anything, like for the buses and stuff, to see if there's anything being misbilled on that. We can go back 36 months. And we do not, we work on a contingency basis, which means 20% of the time, there's not going to be any refund coming back to you whatsoever. So we don't get paid a dime, but you do know that your bills are clean. And so far, I've done some well drillers around here. I'm working with Jack Warren in Elton County. I meet him in the morning, but I've done sawmills and everything else, and I'm running right at 100%. Get some kind of refund. It may be a few hundred, maybe just 1,000 or something, but your bills and everything, it would be nice to go through, and with the contingency, it really works out good for everybody involved. We go through the process on page 4. It just shows what we take 1 or 2 bills. I can do most of the time, I can gather the information in about 2 hours. What I would need to file, it takes about 6 weeks for the process, 6 to 8 weeks for the process to do. Then we come back in front of you to approve whatever changes, anything. We cannot file anything without approval from whoever the person in charge on that. And all the money is handed to you, and then we bill you whenever we get paid. And if there's no refund, we don't pay it. You have to pay it down. Being in business, we've done over 3,000 audits in 48 states. If you look on pages like 6 or 7, you can see some there. We've done for County of Durham, we've done for some hospitals, school districts, Richland school districts, the city of Greensboro, and had real good working relationships with all of them. This is a real quick overview. We also have a website you can go to at nationalutilityrefunds.com. Check out the company and everything. And, so I said, we never know if there's gonna be any money, but 80% of the time we find overages. I know, like Mr. Duncan said, he dealt with something before in the past, and they'd been able to find some refund. And, I've had quite a few happy customers around town that just really count for some free money. And that's what we're looking at. So I tried to school, but I know the budget would help everybody. And what we do is we go forward and we try to correct the bills for 2 years. And then after that, it's all done for you. So you want to benefit moving forward on that. Did everybody have a chance to read that before tonight, or?
I've looked it over, but I know Mr. Cave is probably not, he's been on the road.
He's been running.
At least that's his excuse, so.
Good chance.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
When our 2 years is up, what does future credits mean?
Okay, let's say in the next 2 years, we find out we get everything lined up and everything, that means you don't owe us a dime. You save the whole time going forward after the 2 years. Unless you want to have us check it again and then start again, which most people do, because they change. We found out like power companies change their rate codes and everything just so they can add another bill in there. So we have to keep up on top of all that. And all this is done, what I like is all we have to have is like 1 month's bill or 2 months bill from each provider. Then we can file with the company, get all the bills pulled back to 36 months. So it's a real simple process, is what I really like.
So after 2 years,
We don't have to renew. You could,
let's just say we found an oversight, $4,000,
yeah.
would we owe you $2,000?
No,
for
not after 2 years, unless you did a refund. Now, also, anything right now that Mr. Duncan's talking about, they had something on some fuel or something on power on one bill. Anything that's in process now, put it on the list, and we don't check out. This is all new stuff. We're not new money for it.
We got people working for us that supposedly can do this.
Well, we
We'll
have-
do it, but we gotta pay you even if they find it.
No.
Correct?
Well,
During the 2
no,
years.
no. If they're doing it, if they find it right there on there, so like me and Mr. Duncan talked, I think back in March, you had a bill from Highland, I think it was, or something that was misdone. If we know before we start this, you won't pay us. It's on the agreement here, I got so.
Go ahead, Michelle. If we find we're in this 2-year agreement,
Yeah.
then the staff, our financial staff, finds an oversight.
If you find a new bill wrong, now what we're doing is going back to 36 months and looking for that. Yeah.
You're going back.
We want the 36 months and looking for anything that continues on that. So let's say that they put a missed bill on the Highland School in the next year, and it's very obvious, blatant, we don't charge for that. You can take care of that. You can notify me. I'll take care of that. That's in the contract.
And I do think the way it's defined in the contract,
Yeah, it is.
it says as a result of the
As a
auditor's
result.
efforts.
Okay.
So if somebody here was to find an error,
Yeah, we
we're
don't
certainly
no.
going to say that's
No,
not.
that's not. That wouldn't be right for us to do that. We're not going to do that.
Okay. That was the question.
Okay.
Is that within the 2-year period or after the 2-year period is over? Which we talked about, we enter into a contract for a year.
Yeah.
You pick up all of our bills for the last 12 months.
Well, actually, we pick up like 1 or 2 months and file back. Yeah.
How far back?
I'd go back 36 months, but I just take 1 or 2 bills. We can do everything's online now, so we can just get the approval, sign the approval from whoever's in, going to be overseeing this. And I'm going to be working hand in hand with whoever on this too. So it's a pretty simple process.
But we have to have the agreement in place before we can hand you over the
Yeah.
bills and
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah,
do this
actually,
process.
I did make one change on that. I had it going 50% of the first 24 months, actually. I was able to negotiate that down to 40% for the school and the county, working with, like I said, working with Mr. Horton too.
The status right now at the county is that Mr. Jones is looking at.
I'll give Mr. Jones in the morning. Tomorrow morning, him and Mr. Horton, that was the last thing they wanted me to talk to him. Everything looks good, we just have to make sure everybody's on the same
Right.
wavelength.
And I did have one question that's more sort of the pain lawyer question, but have you Have you confronted the idea of whether or not this is a guaranteed energy savings contract?
To look and see if there's going to be any savings. If there's any way, let's say even on telephones, okay, let's say we could change our provider. We want to make at the end of this 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to bring you ideas. Something, we're going to propose. If, let's say we could transfer some of your cell phones over to some other carrier, same service, save you 10%. It's going to be up to you if you want to decide to go with it. Then we'll take care of the conversion, but everything's in your hands as far as that.
I just want to be sure. The only problem is, and I don't think this is what you were aiming at. And I don't really think you fit into what this was to this chapter. There's a chapter on guaranteed energy savings contracts that are. It's a method that's set out for how a government body in North Carolina can get into one of these. And I just want to be double sure that this isn't one because it has bidding procedures in it. Now, I think you're just providing a service.
Yeah,
and I think that's
we have
right.
some of the county of Durham and stuff like that, but we would be able to help, which is the same, kind of thing. We have a lot of hospitals. I know in Florida we do a lot of hospitals, and in Michigan, definitely working with a lot of stuff like that. So it's just beneficial because there's no cost, but there's potential savings. So I have heard of some people charging $10,000 for the audit whether you get anything back or not. So I like us not doing that.
I've been involved with this for a fairly long time, Mr. Bryce. We've had a number of conversations, have been over the contract, have been over that information. And it's a new venture. Not much history in terms of public school involved, but I know there's some private schools and some private colleges that have been in that, but don't have any history in terms of of a public body involved. Most of the work is the private firms, whether it's sawmill, hospital, whatever, that type of thing. And I would just, I'm not saying in abundance of caution, but I'm saying if this is an advisable type of thing, that it seems to me to be a relatively good partnership type of thing with the county, because we're all served, I think, by the same utility company. And if that process is going forward, and we can tap in, just depending on those conversations that maybe Mr. Jones has had. I've talked to Mr. Horton about it.
Right.
I know that the county commissioners have talked about this at all to do that, but I don't see any real pitfalls in it. I guess my concern is that we monitor this stuff every single month. You've seen what monitoring utilities will do, and it's brought it way down. Yeah. And Linda and our
I hope we don't find anything.
great.
That means that the county's doing right. That's what
Tim monitors it he's like a hawk on phone guilds. So I don't want us to get into a situation where we've got a contract and all of a sudden something comes up and we're reluctant to deal with it because we may have to pass off half that savings to somebody else.
The way this is written, I don't think you'll ever have a problem. I'm going to meet with them in the morning. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, I got to meet. It's just to go over everything, make sure.
I think what I feel comfortable with, Dr. Duncan, and John keeps doing that, I think we've heard information, answered any questions. We will consider it and possibly look at it and possibly not have it on the agenda for next month as far as approval. But John, you keep looking at him nodding as if you have another question.
I was going to say, I'm comfortable with 90% of this. I would ask you to, if the board was inclined, I'm not going to throw stones at you to not take action on it tonight, but if the board was inclined to take action, I would ask you to make it subject to satisfactory legal review. Or consider it, if you want to consider it till next month, I think that'd be.
I think the information is, take it under advisement, whatever the chair would like to do, but as information, and then process that with Mr. Henning, Dr. Baldwin, and Mr. Horton and Mr. Jones, because there's a lot of players in it. We're all served by the same, and if it's good for one public entity, then it should be good for another public entity. We don't want to reject something that's out of hand, a very good issue, but we don't want to accept something that puts us a lone wolf out there.
That's why I'm working with Mr. Watkins, because we can only go back 36 months. So we're trying to get, all we can, if there's anything out there for everyone.
I mean, we have the information already available. If the contract were to be entered into, that process has already been done.
I can show him the one-page agreement right here, if you want to see the agreement, that way you can look over it.
Well, I've stated my preference. I think I'd like to wait and see what the county does, and also give everybody, all the members, and then possibly have an agenda for next meeting. What's the wish of the board? So no, Tommy had a chance, so. If that's what we'll do, Bill, is I'll hear that, and then we'll have it next month, we'll come back and address it. If that's all right. But thank you. Does anyone have any other questions of Mr. Bryson at all? I think he's got his contact information, so if we need him, we can call.
You can call me or email me.
All right.
Yeah, he's very accessible, he's local, and, if you look through that and say, I just need to ask this question, just call him up.
My son's going to first grade, I need all the help we can get now.
Very good, thank you.
Billy.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is what we call public comment. We have a sheet, was there any sign-ups on the, Linda had, okay, sorry. I should ask the person over here. That is Billy has had, so go make. Is there anyone else here that may not know that would like to address the board on any matters that you have concerns about or would like to mention to us? If so, now's the time. If you just raise your hand and step up, we're glad to listen. Everybody's looking at me like, okay, I don't think so. All right, very good. We'll move on then into the rest of our agenda. First is the consent agenda. I think the board's had a chance to look over any questions, any comments on that.
Make a motion that the consent agenda be approved.
Have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Second. A motion second. All in favor, say by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved. Good. Personnel, Mr. Moore, looks like really not a whole lot other than I think we're still ongoing with our Cardiff and J mentorship.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I also received a resignation letter today that I would also like to bring to the board.
I knew about that.
This is from Candy Fisher, who will resign her position from Macon Middle School as a middle school English language arts teacher effective today. I would ask that you all consider this resignation at this time. Yes, sir.
Okay. It's actually part of our consent agenda, so do we need to theoretically add that too?
You need just a very simple vote just to recognize it. Because if somebody resigns, it's.
Was there anything else, Mr. Moore?
No, sir, not at this point.
And were these all the resignations and retirements? I thought I heard a rumor that Matt had some more.
There's a couple more that I would be happy to discuss with you.
I was just wondering, were there some more that we haven't coming that you know of, or?
I think there's a couple more coming.
Okay. But this is all we know of it confirmed at this time?
That's all the paper I
That's all
have
the
this
paper
time.
we have.
Okay, good. All right. And so this was our, I'm sorry, her name again was?
Candy Fisher.
Candy Fisher. For Mr. Henry, I think we need to have a vote, say we accept, very quick vote, the resignation of Candy Fisher. Do I hear a motion to that effect? So moved. Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved. Anything else, Mr. Moore?
No, sir, not at this
All right,
time.
very good. Policy approval items. First, back down there, Booster Club, drawdown and auction. Mr. Baldwin. Dr. Baldwin, excuse me.
Chairman, this is a request from Coach Jay Brooks. It's a major fundraising request for Franklin High School. Basically, they'll sell tickets, dinner tickets, at $100 a piece. Hopefully, we'll try to sell 299 tickets. Comes 2 state dinners and a prize. What happens at the end of the dinner, each of those tickets, it will be drawn from a hat until we get down to 3 tickets. And at that point, there'll be 3 prizes, $500, $1,500, and $5,000.
We've been looking at this for a while. I'm the booster club. So we thought about this for a couple of years. You make big money at it, and right now with the situation of sports like it is, Jay's really been pushing it. So I think
With the lost co-curricular and officials money, it's probably a good time to look at something like
And the time it does, I was concerned about.
this. That's when the drawdown.
We're in the process now. And when is the drawdown?
Late April, early May.
And when there's at some point, Chris, I'm assuming if there's not sales, at what point will the decision be made to, quote, if it's decided it's not moving forward, to raise the money as necessary? Do you have is there a drop dead date at this point? That you would know at that point, yes or no, or?
That's just something we have to look at.
Okay.
I guess we could adjust the prize amounts in accordance to how many tickets we sold it too.
Just a question I was wondering, I know Tony said, I understand the battle.
Jay did say he's gonna meet with the Booster Club to go over some more details in July.
And Dr. Baldwin, they might want to, there's a statute on nonprofits running, and I think this would be a lottery sort of system, you know, it's permissible, they just got to be careful in how they do it. And
We've contacted a lot of the other schools, basically we're gonna pattern this after them.
Good call. What's the wish of the board? We'd like to approve all three of the Frank High School, or do this one as a separate because of the magnitude of what's the board's wish? Okay. The ones that are good. The other, we also had one, Dr. Bond, for a student council fundraiser.
This is submitted by Coach Howard. This is really several fundraisers, sponsorships for T-shirts. If you can scroll down just a little bit. Cake sales, dances and ceremonies, and canned food drive. And this is just to cover operating expenses for student council.
Actually, the next one's not a request. Any other questions, Dr. Bond? If not, I entertain a motion that we approve the two fundraiser requests.
I make a motion both to accept it.
A motion to accept the two. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion saying all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved. Food fund. Records request, Dr. Baldwin.
As you know, we're currently scanning our records for storage. Run into a problem because we've got so much information that are in the student records now after a student graduates, and trying to determine what needs to be stored and what we can just get rid of. According to state law, we've got to have identification of birth, high school attendance data, grading and promotion data. What we would do would be to scan all the high school data as well as any elementary and middle school data that we receive from the elementary schools, and store that electronically.
I looked it over, Chris. I think we're still going over and above the minimum required to some degree, aren't we?
We keep a lot of information in student records that is probably unnecessary.
But even what we're proposing will probably keep a little bit more than what the minimum is, even with the scanning process.
That would be up to y'all.
It looked like we were going to do that a little bit over even what we're doing over and above. So.
We'll keep whatever you tell us to. I think that's what the state law says, is that it's up to the local boards what you deem necessary or appropriate to store.
Any questions of Dr. Baldwin? If not, what's the board's wish? I hear approval. Motion for approval. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that we approve the student records request. Any other discussion?
Just a brief matter of just being absolutely sure that every bit of information that is needed according to the public records law of the state of North Carolina is totally and completely complied with. We've gotten several requests this year for information related to students who were there 15 and 20 years ago. As law enforcement gets into the process of deeper and deeper investigations, where a person was on a particular date or time begins to be important. especially when you're looking at certain offenses. And we just want to be sure that whatever records that we take out of the permanent records are indeed something that can be done. But I mean, there's a whole document of public records. I think Chris is familiar with that. We've gone over that 2 or 3 times. Ms. Waldrop, who handles all of our records in terms of the attendance and all of that information, has been over that too. I just think, Mr. Henney, a thorough review of that, because we can't afford to not, something that we may say, well, that doesn't really need to be in the file, but let's see what the state requires of us. And it does say that the board can require other information. Now, I don't think the board wants to require an art project in the 2nd grade to stay in the student's folder until they graduate. But we do have a lot of that, because nobody throws anything away, because nobody knows what to throw away or not throw away. And that's the dilemma that we have. Yes, it needs to be cleaned up. We've got a room down there that needs to be cleaned up. So we've been around, but I think they're on the right direction. I mean, they're paying for it themselves, I think, right now, Chris.
We're paying a monthly fee.
Yeah.
But we're also charging for transcripts now.
Right, charging for transcripts. So in terms of it just being a dead loss in terms of money, but I don't see anything wrong with doing that at all. I just think we need to be sure that, well, we said we weren't going to put this in there, but now we really need to do that. And a real review of that needs to be done, and I'm sure it can be done. Where are you in the process now, Chris, of this?
We're just making this request right now.
Right.
Right now, we're scanning and maintaining a copy of the birth certificate, which is not official. Immunization records, driver's ed, personal education plans, testing records, social security card, which is just a copy, and school nurses records. And all that is over and above the state minimum.
I think I know the medical situation is permanent. I mean, I know that you've got a permanent situation with that immunization record and all of that. That's permanent.
You mean it should be stored in the student's graduate record?
That's my
It's not in the. It may be. It's not in that particular statute.
I don't have a problem with it. I just know when you're dealing with student records, especially when you're dealing with public records, you can get into sort of a bind if you've thrown away something that all of a sudden now the court says, hey, you should never have done that. I mean, that's information that you should have had.
And that's what we're asking the board for direction. You know, what do you want us to keep in the records?
And this is subject to ongoing review. Like Dr. Duncan said, we can take a look at this whenever necessary and have the board reconsider. So.
Really gets what Dr. Duncan's saying now, but if we're at a stage where if we go ahead and do something, then it comes back. We would not have any liability if we follow the statute now and do things, and then they've changed it down in the future. There's nothing that comes back on us, is there, John, that said, oh, by the way, we decided you should have kept these records and we didn't because of scanning. There's no liability or anything that would come back to bite us at that point, is there?
I'm certain that's not likely to happen with this request. No. I think you'll be in good shape if you follow this request.
And I think if you said we will keep doing what we currently are scanning, and if at some point in time it's determined that some of that information is not there. I know the driver's ed records, I think it's 28, it used to be 25, it might be 28, that you have to keep those records till the person is out of school and they get to be a certain age. It's like maybe 20, it used to be 25, that you had to keep driver education records there because they can become important in terms of, you know, somebody gets sued down the line and somebody claims that they had driver ed and didn't help them and it ran over somebody. Well, no, they didn't have it. You know, that's our defense. But if they did have it, then you know, they could claim something. But I think if you stayed with this and said, what's currently going on, let's continue to do that and maintain those records and scan them. And then as you get into the year, begin to say, well, are there some things that we can pull out?
Follow up again on the idea of liability. I've been trying to think through it. I don't think there's any, I think if you were found to not have been keeping a public record that you were supposed to have been keeping, the remedy, the only remedy is an instruction from that court to start keeping that record. I don't know what else it would be, but I you know.
You know, Chris actually answered my question. I thought I read about, we're actually doing more there than even what the minimum says. That was the paragraph I read about, yeah, we're keeping the driver's ed, utilization records and all that. That's actually over and above even what the minimum is.
The state minimum, you know, it's in that statute there, and that's just our question is, it says whatever the board, local board deems appropriate above that state minimum. And, you know, that, at the bottom of that page there is what we're currently keeping, and I'm just asking you what you want us to continue to keep.
What about your suspensions and those type of things?
Yeah.
Is it on there?
Well, it's the student either graduates from high school or is not expelled or suspended again during the 2-year period commencing the day the student's return to school after the expulsion or suspension. You know, it can be expunged at that time.
2 years after they graduated?
Either graduates from high school. So if they graduate from high school, you wouldn't have to keep them any longer. And then it says, or is not expelled or suspended again during the 2-year period. So that once they graduate, we wouldn't have to keep it any longer.
Because the university, they call you, and they want to know why was John Doe, Mary Doe suspended, or because they're making decisions about whether that student's going to fit within their institution.
Well, according to this statute, once they graduate, we can expunge their record. I mean, we can, whatever the board deems is appropriate there, we would do.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but you had to follow those guidelines for it to be expunged. It's not automatically, we don't expunge automatically, it's just.
Well, I think that this, what that's saying is that while the student is in school, you have to maintain the record of their suspension or expulsion.
Right.
But once they've graduated, that record can be expunged.
I don't read it that way.
Okay,
because it says,
I'm the same way. I thought said you
shall expunge from the record the
unless.
notice of suspension or expulsion if the following criteria are met, and it's all of them, I think. If the following criteria are met, to me,
Oh, yes,
it's all four.
all.
Yes, sir. I'm afraid so.
I think Ms. Breedlove, it may be of some assistance in looking at all of this, because this is a major issue. I mean, not only student records, but all our records. That if there's someone from the state or archives, because there is about 154-page book that tells you what you can and can't do. And this is only part of that, of student records. But we've got all kinds of records out there of, you know, invoices and purchase orders and all of those kind of things too. But, you know, I think as long as they're acting within the guidelines, then there's no problem with that. And if you say, whatever you're doing right now in scanning, hey, just continue to do that till we determine that there's something that we need to look at more specifically than that.
What are we doing with the files at this time, Chris, after scanning? Are we shredding those in front, or we retaining?
Once they're scanned and stored electronically, we're shredded.
Okay.
Updating on the charging for transcripts. Is that during their high school?
No, that's after they've graduated.
After graduating.
And we allow them, I believe it's 1 copy, 1 request, and then after they've graduated, it actually starts 1st of July this year.
Okay. Is that in your handbook? Is that something we've changed in your handbook about a fee? Don't you have a fee put place in your handbook?
I'm not sure if that's in the handbook at this point or not. Did we put that in the handbook?
So is it going into effect 13, 14, or is it going into effect 14, 15?
It's this year.
So you might want to look at that, then we can make a your handbook. I believe you got a section in there for fees, right? Like, and just put transcript fee in there, then we can approve it.
We can add that.
It would just be an addendum.
Yes, Mr. Burrow, when those records are scanned, do we have sufficient backup so that it indeed becomes a permanent record rather than being just on one computer at one location?
We, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that we made a folder on the server. That server is always also backed up. If the people that are scanning them are delivering electronic files in the correct way, and we need to look at that and make sure they are, they should be dropping them in a folder that sits on the server. That server is also, all the files on that server is backed up nightly. So we would have a backup of everything.
You would just hate to think that there would be one computer that everything is on, and all of a sudden something happens and you've got no backup of any records.
Yeah, so we're doing off-site backup from Franklin High School back to our servers here.
Is the service that you're using providing that to us, Chris? Do you know that?
Providing the transcripts?
It's the same service that was scanning the documents here. And if they're doing it the same way they're doing it
Yeah.
here, then it's being backed up correctly.
But we're not sure at this point.
I will make sure to check and make sure that that's happening. But it would be, yeah, just on one computer, that's the disaster. So it needs to be definitely backed up.
Dr. Baldwin, you're right, I apologize. There's another provision in that statute that does say after 2 years, if you make those other two determinations in 3 and 4 there, you can expunge that record, the superintendent or designee. As to suspension records. You're right.
Does it go back to misdemeanor and felony? If a person commits a felony, assault, or what it may be, that stays on record?
Figured that would be on record with the local court on.
But when that college or university calls you and asks you why did John Doe, well, they check on the application if they've been suspended. What do you say to them?
Well, at this point, we would look back in the records that we have, and then just report whatever the records tell us. But if they graduated and the superintendent or his designee has determined that can be expunged, we wouldn't be able to comment on it at all.
Or you just have to say that, would you not, Chris?
Yeah.
Say, well, that information's been expunged, further request of, and give the reason why, and go from there. So, really, we're not doing anything other than, I mean, we're maintaining, we're scanning the information that we're told at a minimum, and we're also over and above doing some of that. And I think John indicated, well, if we find out down the road if we need to be adding something, as long as once we find out we start doing it, then we're really nothing to be, that's as good as, I mean, that's taking care of it, correct?
I think so.
And I'm certainly plead my ignorance on this, that do we currently have a school board policy that governs student records?
Yeah, 440.
But it really doesn't cover the records after the students graduated. It deals with the student records while they're in school. And, you know, we really don't put the discipline records in the student record either. Yeah, we have them in a separate file, so if we did have to comment on something like that, we could. But as far as the yellow sheets and then the discipline records and NCY, they're not stored in this record.
Just trying to see, we have somebody in here that's been applied to a college recently. If that little column is still there, where you have to check if you've been.
But we dealt with it this year with a current student.
All right, now, are you saying from this day forth, that would be expunged because they've graduated, and there would be no comment to the college or university?
Well, what we had to do in this particular case this year, we didn't look in our student record. We actually went to the discipline records and looked at those, which they were not part of the student record. And that information, you know, we keep really don't know how long we keep that, unless it be an NC-wise for a number of years.
Board will elaborate. I think Dr. Duggan has made a very good point, John. We should make this a policy for what we're accepting and make that part of a reference point we can go back to.
I mean, you certainly can. You also have your principal from,
Mhm.
you know, one high, and I don't know if the same problem exists with Nantahala students and Highlands after they've graduated, but you're,
Right.
the only one that has the big problem with all of these files after the kids have
Right.
graduated is standing right there. He's the only one
Right.
that's going to do so.
Nantahala still has about 2 more drawers left in their pocket.
Yeah.
I just think,
That lasted
if we
20
don't
years.
have a policy that addresses these things, then there needs to be one, because you do have 5 situations here, you know, Franklin, Nantahala, Highlands, Union, and Macon Early College.
And I think you should have a policy, absolutely. Anytime that you know.
So I'm looking at Chris. Chris, if we defer acting that till we have a chance to have a policy in place and use that as approval, would that cause any problems with?
No, we
proceeding?
continue with this until a policy's in place. I
If
mean,
you don't mind, I think I'd prefer to do that, based on what the other board wants, act like I'm gonna make a decision. Dr. Duggan, I just want to think we have a policy, and once we do that, then that'll tell you exactly what to do.
And it gives direction to the Highlands folk and Nantahala, so everybody's playing with the same rule.
What's the pleasure of the board? Is that the avenue we'd like to take, or what y'all want to do?
I think that's what we're, go ahead and, we're gonna table it.
I think table it pending a policy that we can review, and it technically be the first reading, but because we're got a time frame, we can go ahead and have it for next meeting, and possibly just go ahead and do away with the second reading if that's so, if we so choose, and move forward and get it out of the way.
They continue to do what they're doing.
What they're doing, exactly.
I'll make a motion that the Franklin High School records request be tabled to the next school, July 14th.
Very good. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you, Chris.
thank you.
Next, we have, I think it's the handbook, Highlands School Student Handbook, Mr. Jetter. Changes on that?
We don't have any substantive changes in there. We have revisions and not reversions in this case, so.
That's good. I like that choice of words. That's very good.
Mr. Jeter, I'm hung up on fees tonight. Do you have a transcript fee?
No. We give them transcripts pretty much.
Because I want to ask
Routine.
you the same thing when I see the word band fee, if that's in your handbook.
We don't have a band fee. We don't really have fees. or
We
anything.
have something we'll be talking later, but that's over.
But you don't have a transcript fee.
No, sir. No.
However, I think.
But we don't do that many transcripts. You know, our kids, we give them, you know, we give them as many as they need to the colleges they're applying before they graduate. And that's pretty much it. Every once in a while, we'll have somebody come back 15 years later that needs a transcript to prove they graduated from high school. We run them a transcript. It's not a big deal for us because we don't have very many. Now, when I was at a school where we had 400 graduates every year, we had transcript fees. Just runs into a lot of time and money.
Mr. Chairman, that might be another opportunity to address that as a district if you want in
Right.
that records policy.
I think it's what we do,
Make
yeah.
sense to
Well,
say.
as you read my mind, I was thinking, I hope you know that we can make that, if we decide to make it a standard fee, then we're kind of, yeah, giving everybody the guidelines on which to operate on, so that's something we can look at also as part of the policy. Mr. Shields, will that work? We're gonna do it. Any other questions of Mr. Jetter? Any changes, update on, I hear a motion to approve.
And a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I don't know, is Mr. Brown here?
He's
Oh, I'm sorry, no, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Shelby, sorry. Olive Valley.
There are only 3 changes to our handbook. The first one being the addition of this year's school academic calendar. And then there is on page 2, we are encouraging parents to send in attendance notes by email, giving them that option as well versus the phone call and handwritten note. And then the last on page 4 is encouraging parents to communicate with their teachers through email as well. So just those 3.
Make the motion be accepted.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Thank
Thank you. I suppose who's representing Mr.
Yeah,
Madden?
Mr. Maslin called me today, and he has no changes in the student handbook except the date changes that are necessary related to the school calendar. So everything that was in they're comfortable with their staff, and you're comfortable with everything they had, and request that we approve it with no changes.
Except for this edition of the updated.
Right, just to whatever is necessary by calendar itself.
So moved. Have a motion, hear a second. A motion, all in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Mr. Sutton?
Yes, the school handbook was up first, and I was
Yes.
looking for that, what Mr. Shields said, and we do not have, the only thing I can see that mentions fees is like lost library books, other damaged school materials. I know in Ms. Team's, her band letter, when kids sign up for band, she goes over all that with them. They sign like I'm pretty sure they sign a letter, you know, kind of agreeing to what the instrument rental is, and it gives a full explanation when they decide to do band. And she has a band night prior to explain that all, but that would be a simple add. Other than that, we just changed, shortened it in case I have to print it, money as tight as it is. We are going to redo our vision and mission once everybody comes back to school, so that may change a little bit. But other than times and changing wording and shortening some things down and taking out some repetitive stuff, we took it from 19 pages down to 14 or 12 in case we had to print 30. And we still do, everybody's given the last page of our handbook, which says they've agreed the parent signature page to an agreement. And it asks, we do just give that page out first, and it asks them to view it online and sign off online. We started that 3 years ago with Mr. Henny's approval, that he thought that was sufficient, that they could sign and say they've read it online. We used to make 650 copies. We made 50 last year, and that was too many. We only gave out like 10, and everybody returns and says they read it online.
Mr. Chairman, that's something that I was just talking with Angie about, remembering looking into that 4 years ago, and how there just is no legal requirement that you have a school handbook at all. And I think if you're going to have one, we ought to keep the process that we have, and the board ought to know exactly what's being passed out on behalf of each of the schools, but there's no reason not to have it online. And print them as requested, or print a few of them. It could save.
I know some of the elementary schools get them in their handbook. It's part of the handbook or the agreement for the planner, the student planner. The company will put it in there for them. But I would be totally in favor of a very shortened version that would cover the elementary schools, so that every year you all were not presented with this ever-changing handbook issue. It seems like Macon County, or at least maybe in the Franklin area, could have a general elementary handbook with very few individual school directions for pickup or the release or start time. But everything else is pretty generally the same. But that's just...
I see some nodding heads from principals behind you, so.
It would save y'all tons of time on the handbooks every year.
If I understood you right, John, we could actually consolidate that where you have just a general, and it could be online, that could be referred to. Am I understanding right?
Yes, sir. I mean, and I haven't looked at it since that time. Maybe there's a requirement, and I don't know of it, but I think you would be totally at liberty to adopt a general elementary school handbook. Now, maybe if you want to approve these changes tonight, and we can talk about what that would look like and have one approval for that new handbook, we can bring that back to you.
I think if you got anything in there that's punitive, you need to be careful that the parents know what happens in certain situations.
Like a discipline.
Right. But I think as you get older, that's probably more the high school, and you'd be arrested or charged, those type of things. not sure that needs to be a general handbook, but I think maybe your K3, 4, or K5 or somewhere like that. But be careful trying to have a general one. If I'm a parent, I want to know if my child does this, what the repercussions are, criminally or what it may be, or suspension from school, or some things like that. I need to know, I guess, to be a more wise parent.
I don't think you can solve the issue. I mean, my suggestion is to prove it and try to get some study going to that type of thing, because if you possibly could get an elementary handbook that's online that says, you know, here's what the procedure is for checking out a school at East Franklin, and by the way, that's the same thing over there at South Macon, and by the way, it's the same thing. You're not going to find a different story depending on who's telling it. You've got what it is right here, and everybody knows up front that's what it is. But and obviously, you know, it just takes time to develop that, and we haven't really spent some time on some other things.
Dr. Baldwin, is that something you could look at doing, check with our principals, and make that a project where we move toward doing exactly that, consolidating this where we just have a generic, and rather than Mr. Bowles or Mr. Sutton have to come to us every time we want to change something, I think that would save time and make it much easier. And again, you have it online, so that would be my thought.
Well, there's a lot of transfer in the county too, so
right.
If you went, I mean, I can see that maybe the signature page, and I could consolidate kind of our behavior method plan at school down to one page, but then the school board policy covers a lot of the student discipline. You know, when it gets in the major.
I think if you get there, if you have the generic, then you can always, with John's help, make specific changes, like at the high school or possibly middle grade, where we have, as Mr. Shields brought up, but I think the idea of having a generic that everyone can refer to makes a whole lot more sense than everybody having to come and us having to sit here and do this, so it makes a whole lot more sense. Anytime I'd recommend the board that we approve what Mr. Sutton has asked tonight, and then move, then if it's all right, then have Dr. Baldwin look into consolidate all that into one, where we don't have to do this every time.
Make a motion to Mountain View Intermediate School student handbook for 2013-14 be approved.
Second.
Yeah, 2 seconds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Band fee request, Mr. Sutton.
The band fee request, I talked to Ms. Teen, who was on the retirement agenda tonight. Ever since she was at middle school, there was a $20 band fee. And I think she used it for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I talked to Mr. Huckney. He seemed to think it was covered the last time the high school got it covered back in 2009, maybe. Yeah. But I looked back, Ms. Burke got the minutes, and I couldn't find anything where it mentioned middle school. It just talked about high school band fee cap, $100, I think. But $10 goes towards like the repair of instruments, where she has them there on site, ready to go. Buying reeds, specific cleaning rods. I mean, band just costs money.
Of course you get.
$10 goes towards a music book, online music, subscriptions that she has to get, concert music, that sort of thing.
Just a question, how is this being financed right now? I mean, this is going on now, so.
I think it has been as a tradition for years, even when she was at middle school. And I just
been done.
I thought about it. You know, I'm not sure that it was ever out there or ever approved or mentioned, but it's just been going on for years. I would say. I would hate to say how many years it's been going on.
So basically, Mark, you just want to request that we formally approve that is this both for MBI and Macon Middle?
I'm just seeking it for
MBI right now.
But
Well,
yeah.
Imagine these come back if it or
I'm just seeking
practice
it
there
for,
also.
This is just 6th graders at MBI. There is currently no fifth. There's currently not a 5th grade band class.
We have a request to approve a $20 band fee for, as pointed out, because as you said, it's a very expensive thing. Any other discussion? Not to hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Not any opposed? So now, Mark, I'm going to go back to, I skipped over your PTO request.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
thank you. Did she ever give you a map like this?
Yes.
Scan it? Okay. If you're familiar with the site, PTO, we've had an issue about there is, well, funny story. They took all the topsoil when they were building that and stored it up top. And then Mr. Watson came back one day and they just kind of graded it flat up there. So we have super grass way up high, but there's very little grass down low for the kids to play on. And there's no ball field, no playground equipment. The kids do not do recess every day, but on Fridays, we have a positive behavior system. If they earn behavior, where everybody starts with 100, if they don't lose, if they keep it above an 80, I believe it is, then they get 20 minutes outside on Friday. And we are looking at doing a track, a fence. I talked to the rec park and Justin Moffitt and Seth Adams, and they said that there was no way they could help possibly until the summer of 2014. But we were looking at scraping in a baseball field, getting some dirt on that, putting a fence up to protect the building, 10 foot tall, the length of the building on each side, putting a track up. And in the future, we were looking at doing, the fire road goes around right up through here. So it will run just on the inside of the fire road. And we're looking at doing a big piece of equipment up here that handle like 20 or 30 kids. That big piece of equipment costs a whole lot of money. But right now we're just looking at doing the baseball field. That would be, home plate would be here, and a fence and a track.
Now looking wrong, or is that where the drill wells were?
That is, but we won't be going necessarily deep
Right.
underground.
You can-
Where the
stuff
fence
like
is,
that
they
on
would
top.
be, but I don't think they're that close to the building. Get David to come up there and look at it where they would stake
That's
it
what
out.
you're doing, you're not covering those, but they'll still be accessible. It's not like we're paving.
Yeah, we're not paving over top of anything. Eventually, it would be nice to pave that like South Macon, but we want to make sure that we're not over top of anything. Most of them are all out where the playfield is. There's a huge drain out here, but it could be taken care of with a little piece of AstroTurf where it's still drain underneath it. Probably a 4x5 drain. But the PTO has about 15,000, and they're looking to spend about 10, 11, 12,000 on that. And with money raised next year to go towards increasing that area.
But at this time, do we need any calls to the board?
No, this is all PTO.
No. This is just, I guess we're changing the lay of the land at the school building, so we're just kind of seeking approval to spray this mess around.
We're not asking you to do anything like that.
Just
Mark, is there-
cautious self, I need to, we need to be sure that that area is completely free of any, that it's engineered correctly, and I'm not supposing that it won't be, but the worst thing you can do is get out there and start something, and then the powers that be, whether it's the permitting or whatever it is, because I'm almost sure that you will have to have some type of permitting. I know it's our property, but we're altering the site. That, we're just in a day where we need to be sure that we're, crossing those guidelines. And PTA people are usually really good about that and this type of thing, but you just want to be sure that that any underground type of stuff is taken care of, so that you know that before. And I think all you're doing right now, Mark, is requesting permission for the PTO to start investigating this process. Because I think the board would want to see exactly what the plans are before they dig very far.
Is there a point person in the school system that could take this and check all that out for us? Because I don't think the
obviously
PTO.
David in maintenance
Okay.
would need to have some, some guidance over that, but if you end up having to get into the city, I mean, he could tell you where you're gonna have to have permits or not. I know, Chris, we ran into that with that little fence down there with the band, where we were running a little gator up the hill there or something like that. I mean, even just to alter the fence at the high school track required some type of permitting and handicapped accessibility and all of those kind of things that years ago, we just went out and built. And I'm just saying to be cautious about that and didn't do it.
And I had that same question about the equipment that they're going to get, Mark. I know you're familiar with the design standards for what the, for safety standards that have to be built into that kind of stuff these days. So, I mean, it was the kind of thing we just did at Cowee. We had I think it was a metal pole and there were some tires that had been bolted to it. And, I don't think anybody died, but just make sure that they double check that.
And that would be my only question is, I wouldn't know who to check with. That's what I'm saying. Is there somebody that I can run it through and they get the permit or show me the next step to go? That's not my field.
Well, I think obviously you're in the county, not in the city, so Mr. Bishop would be the contact person in the county to know where the permits would be needed. And then I think Mr. David from our maintenance department could give you some direction if there's underground lines or anything like that. Of course, that could be easily checked out too. They can find that out. But
And I assume that if they're buying commercial playground equipment, it's already going to be built to standards pretty much. But you got to have and I don't know them off the top of my head, but you've got to have so much certain mulch and certain kinds of mulch at a certain depth underneath stuff so that if a kid falls, the district winds up with problems if it wasn't built to those specifications and somebody gets hurt.
That's where the big money comes in. The ball field repairs.
I'm trying to figure out how to have a motion, if that's the will of the board, and make sure we're kind of covering all that. So, John, help me here. I guess if we have a motion to approve, it would be subject to
Yes,
all,
sir.
making sure that
Permitting specifications, I think would be the way to put it. Yes, subject to that.
subject to all applicable permits and equipment
Designs.
needs that are there. If something comes up and he runs into an issue about it, then Mark or his PTO representatives would have to come and talk to Dr. Baldwin about it, and then if it's a board issue, then you go. But I think if you approve it subject to those conditions, at least they can have some kick and go in and start and say, hey, we've got some things to do, but basically the board has no problem with you doing this at the middle school.
There you go, motion. I think everyone understands. There you go, motion to that effect.
I make a motion.
Dr. Baldwin, do you have something to ask me?
Colleague back there.
Well, I was going to say, John was concerned about the mulch. When you get a piece of equipment, we've done it at South Macon, you buy the equipment, they install it, they bring the mulch, they bring the border, it's all the depth, it's all safety,
It's
the
all
whole
part of
thing.
the contractor.
It's not piecemeal. So the PTO, like South Macon, didn't install any of the equipment, they purchased it, company came and put it in, and they give you a certificate. It's safety certified for whatever age group, for mulch, and they tell you in a couple of years you'll have to replace mulch because they kick it out. That's not really an issue when you buy the equipment.
That was about $45,000 at Iola Valley just recently. And that was a
15
relatively
getting
small
maybe
piece.
one piece. 15,000 and about one piece of equipment.
Yep.
They have nothing.
Swing.
They have nothing there. You go, I'm proud of you. They have.
All right. Well, I think we have the motion that we, subject to allow the PTO to proceed, just subject to covering the bases and checking all the permitting process we need, and to make sure that the improvements comply with all standard regulations concerning that area. Do I hear a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved. Joyce, child nutrition bid summary.
Yes, sir. The only change, we've rolled over the bids. The only change is the bread company. We have changed, we sent out a bid and That's the only change really. We're with the North Carolina Alliance for the food bid and also for the supply bid. And they're all the same. That's the only one that changed.
And also what's in the bid process, so. I think, do I hear a motion for approval is just subject to the one change from previous years? Do I hear a motion? So moved. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. I'll give you a room here. Paula, looks like you're the next.
Yes. The first thing is the memorandum of agreement. I really don't think y'all even have to approve this. It is the agreement that we are making for our North Carolina State Improvement Project, and that's funding we get in the Exceptional Children's Program for training in reading and math. And this memorandum just says that we know we're going to have to follow all the guidelines when we get this money, and then we have to report at the end of the year what we did with it. And actually, it's only on there because when I gave Renee my stack of contracts, it was on the bottom of the stack.
Okay.
So I don't think it needs your approval.
For information purposes only.
Yes.
Okay.
The next ones are all contracts that will be renewed, hopefully, for the coming year. Support service contract with Helen O'Neill. She works with our exceptional children at East Franklin on contract basis, just providing some additional support. Olga Pater, school psychologist, who does our bilingual evaluations for students who need to be tested in Spanish. Those are both paid out of exceptional children funds. AG Services, Joe Wolfer and Renee Bolt, that's contract for both of them, and those are paid out of AG funds. Specialized contract services with Savita Adams, that's an exceptional children contract, and she is teaches sign language to some of our students who are hearing impaired. And then a contract with Western Carolina Speech and Hearing for audiological services for our students who fail their hearing screenings and need follow-up on that. And a speech contract with Martha White. She provides, she's a retired speech therapist and helps us out with some of our overloads. And those are all paid out of exceptional children funds.
These are all contracts we've used in the past, aren't they?
They are.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to accept the contracts.
Second. I have a motion to accept all the contracts as presented. I have a motion to second. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Paul. Memorandum of agreement, Macon County Sheriff's Department. Mr. Henning.
Mr. Chairman, this is a draft. I've been in contact with Brian Welch, who's the attorney for the Sheriff's Department. They, I believe, are going to be seeking some grant-type funding to possibly secure more SROs. And as a first step to doing that, he was looking for our existing SRO agreement, and as not Highlands, but for Franklin area. I guess this would apply to, you have to look at applying this to Nantahala, not Highlands. We couldn't find the existing one, and it's time to restate one anyway. So this is a restated new draft SRO agreement between Macon County Schools, Macon County, and the Sheriff's Department. It's very similar to the one the board just saw recently with the town of Highlands for provision of the SRO at Highland School. I don't even think it's ready for approval at this point, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. And one thing in particular I wanted to bring to your attention that I think we'll probably need to change is under section 3, it says, and this had been the arrangement we had with the town of Highlands, was to reimburse for retirement benefits of the SRO for the first year of the agreement. For starters, I don't know how many SROs are going to fall into this agreement, and I don't know, given the state of funding for the school system, I doubt we're going to have the funds to do that. Unless you go borrow them from the county for a little while and then pay them right back to their officers, which doesn't make sense. But so that in all likelihood will come out. I just wanted you to be aware of this, and if you have any questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, I have a some gray areas I just wanted to kind of get clarified in my head. And I know you were intending, I had some.
But we're going to treat this for information purposes. I don't think we'll be ready to approve tonight anyway. But please,
Mr. Burke is here and he can, for Franklin High School, number one, I think should be highly encouraged that they find a female school resource officer. Male school resource officers, and it's tough being a male dealing with female situations with the parents, what it may be. So if in any way that you can pass that on, or if we can have a female school resource officer. Am I out of line?
No, there is times that you
Just
end
all-
up having to give it to like Pam K.
Yeah, and you're passing something maybe legal to a person that's not in that field, like in PK. And I had the lectures house, Ms. Burrows, and she helped a lot. So if there's any way it's possible that you could have a female school resource officer, or that, make that request. Under goals and objectives, Ms. Burrows, let's go to number one, goals and objectives. Number two, I just want to bring this word to you right now, the word encourage. Number two, the word encourage, just hang on to that. Number five, I didn't understand this one. To cooperate with law enforcement officials in their investigation of criminal offenses that occur off campus. I didn't understand why that one's there.
I think that this would fit in, and I haven't looked at that policy in a while. And again, this language was in the agreement we had with the town of Highlands Police Department, and I got that from a model sort of agreement that had this term in it. I think the notion is that if you have law enforcement personnel that are investigating something off campus and it involves a student, or either as a suspect or not, just as to encourage them to work with the local, with our SRO.
That's in one of the items that I want to talk about this minute.
Okay.
It's on down.
Okay.
I didn't know why that one was in there.
Okay.
Number five, the number six, just hold on to the word encourage again. Then you go to number two, talk about employment. Let's see, where's your section to employment? If you look at, that's what Mr. Henning was talking about there. You have a term in there, it's called, in number two, retirement compensation. Then if you go down to number three, it talks about, or the SRO, the next group, SRO program funding. Look at number three, and that's what Mr. Henning was talking about, or number one. The board will reimburse the county for the retirement benefits of the SOR for the first year of this agreement. I just didn't know about that, but you kind of cleared that up. So there's some laundry in here that we may need to look at.
Well, let me address the encourage language.
What language?
Encourage, using the word encourage. Sworn law enforcement officers all have their standard operating procedures that they follow, and we've got to be real careful, and I know we've talked about this in the past as a district, that they're not our policemen. We don't tell them what to do. They follow their standard operating procedures, and so I think encourage is meant to is used there to say Macon County Schools is not ever going to direct an officer what to do.
Right.
You know, they follow their procedures.
But I think in those two situations where we're talking about encouraging, it was about talking about after-school activities, encourage them to be involved in after-school activities, athletic activities.
Right.
Encourage them to be in crosswalks, those type of things. But when you get to their standard order operating procedure, encourage is not there anymore. It's kind of mandated that they're part of this. So I just didn't know where the powers to be. If we could just scoot on down to Number 5.
Can I stop right there with a question
Yeah.
regarding that? At the high school, the police department currently provides traffic controls for our buses and that sort of thing. And I don't know that we want to get away from that and put that on SROs because a lot's going on during that time of day.
And it's not mandatory the way it's in there. It just says, I think really the idea is if an SRO was to notice a dangerous situation, they would take care of it. But I don't think anything in this agreement would say, you know what, Franklin Police Department don't do that anymore. I think that would stay in place.
If you go to number 5, where it says standard operating procedures, number 1, I think I didn't know how you're going to take the school resource officer. If they're there 30 minutes before students arrive, 30 minutes after, where is this time? The remaining hours of the school resource officer's work week shall be assigned to write reports and to provide afternoon and/or evening assigned to write reports and/or to provide afternoon or evening security at school events. I'm just not sure you can get that much flex time before school or after school. I don't think you can really take much time if you're going to do your paperwork and stuff. I'm just saying these are little gray areas that I have. If you go to number 7, section 7, duties of, this is where number 2, and I think this is easy to do, but school resource officers want to accommodate the principals administration that they work with. I've abused them in this manner here. It is understood by the parties, however, that the school resource officer is not the school disciplinarian. And we put them into a lot of situations that they are enforcing school rules, not the legal things. And I just think if that piece is in there, they do a lot of supervision. It doesn't have anything to do with criminal things. Thank God for them. But not a school disciplinary. If you look at number 5.
But couldn't they cross over to be that, Gary?
Pardon me?
Don't they have to cross over and be that at times?
It says they're not to.
They're really not supposed to.
Right.
We're really not supposed to ask them to.
Says they're not to. I've abused, I remember I admitted, they worked well, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure Mr. Ball and Mr. Wood will cross over again. Number 5, I think it's an area there, the word council, you're talking about a school resource officer to counsel public school students. I think what I've seen before, we need to put in there somewhere a non-legal counsel. When you start, when Mr. Burt comes in and a parent starts asking questions and you provide the information, you can easily cross over, Mr. Henning, into your arena. So if it could be if you're going to counsel a child, it should be in a non-legal situation. But it's easy to get in. Hey, if you do this, you start becoming a lawyer. You got to be careful. So I think the council thing.
I really messed that
one. Number 8, I see number 7. I think this one we were talking about a few minutes ago. To assist our law enforcement officers with outside investigations concerning students attending board school. We have a captive audience. Your students are. You've got a lot of information about it, but are you to assist other law enforcement officers with outside investigation of the students at that school, or should that be a standalone? It may have nothing to do with school, but you're providing them with information. I don't know. I just say I have a little problem with number 7. Number 8, and I've gotten through. Here's where it talks about, and this is in their standard operations, or their duties of the school resource officers. Remember, we talked about the word a while ago, encourage and encourage, but it says here, to provide security for special school events or functions such as athletic events, PTA meetings, at the request of the principal or the safety manager. So that left the word encourage up there, and the principal was encouraging that person. But now, in this duties of the school resource officer, I see it's kind of a mandate. And we have to pay Mr. Burke if he comes to work at the ball games and stuff, right?
No, sir, not the way this is drafted anyway. All the pay except for, and like I said, I don't think this will stay in, the reimbursement of the retirement benefits for the year, all the other pay is supposed to be purely through, and that's why they're having to seek out grant funding, because I don't think, and we've heard an awful lot since Newtown about how everybody just ought to add SROs. Well, you know, an SRO costs you $100,000 a year or something like that. It's not.
They're not free.
Exactly. No, sir.
We do currently pay for security and athletic events.
And see, another thing, I think out at middle school is like for number 9, to provide traffic control at the school during the arrival and departure of students when a school crossing guard is absent. You've got 2 officers there in the morning time. Thank God for them. A lot of people dead, not for them. But there's but that says that's a mandate there. And prior to that, we talked about encourage. So which one do we do as a principal? Do I look at the mandates, the duties of the SOR officer, and forget my encouraging and just follow in line with the duties of the school resource officer? But I think there's compensation here that, and you won't find enough time in what we were trying to do a while ago before school and after school to compensate them for football. And that's
Basketball.
Yeah. So those are my concerns about this. It's just.
Mr. Like to ask one? Could you just send an email to John outlining those?
Well, probably not, but.
That way he can take all that and.
I got the message with most of it.
And get it, and then what he can do is he can work on it and then bring it back to us next time with a revised version.
And it does need some work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, anyone? Okay, thank you, Mr. Shield. Takes time. Approval items, Carol, our North Carolina Title I application.
Yes. You should have a copy. That's the signature page for Dr. Duncan. This looks a little different than what you've seen in the past because it's all online now. You put it in and it calculates everything except for this page, and that's the one that has the signatures. And Dr. Duncan also has to make sure that you're not using disbarred vendors, which the finance office really checks for that. Okay, this is our per pupil allocation for school. Column C is, column B is our percent for each school of free and reduced lunch students. Notice that Nantahala is our highest with 91%, and Highlands is our lowest with 50.62. We allocate giving our highest poverty school the largest per pupil funding. And if you look at column C, that's the number of students minus all the pre-K students that are under 5 and all the high school students that are over 18. You can't count those students. And then column D shows your non-public school students that are participating. And we only have one private school in Macon County, that's Tremont. And we've met with them and they choose not to participate. And I did like a span for per pupil allocations. I tried to make it It's reduced some from last year just because we got less money. But I tried to keep it at a point where, when I gave a school an allocation, that they had enough money to employ the same number of teachers paid out of Title I as they've had in the past. And it comes out total. I had to shift it just a little bit, but in the end, we think we'll be able to do as many teachers, if not maybe 0.25 less out of Title I, which is pretty close. Angie and I talked about it. We don't know yet, until we see who's going to be employed for next year. The lower paid people go on local, and then the in-between go to Title I, and the higher paying people go to state. So we're just kind of taking a guess on who people. But now with this electronic version, we don't really turn in the number of teachers we're going to pay out of Title I, so we can adjust that. And then that's just our worksheet page that we use in case you have questions about that.
Carol, does this represent a reduction in funds?
Yes.
About how much from last year?
Well, I think it's total about 91,000. I haven't calculated in a while, so I don't remember. I just knew we were getting less, so I worked with that number. But last year, in the middle of the year, we had an adjustment anyway that was about 43,000, I think. So it's the difference between the 91 and the 43. So it's not as, we're still able to do what we planned. The schools won't have as much money to spend on things, but we're trying to get teachers and, the most important things. And of course, the Title I requirements that you do professional development and that sort of stuff. You have any questions?
I did, I don't know how the right way to ask you, to be honest with you.
Well, I try to make it, I try to work it so we get as many people as we can.
Make a motion, 2013, 2014, North Carolina Title I application be approved.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any other questions? Not?
Like you, I couldn't ask them.
I know she's just following the rules and doing like that.
Yeah,
There's a complicated formula she has to follow, I know.
Actually, they've made it pretty easy because a lot of those calculations will be done electronically. So you just plug the numbers in and it does it for you. That way, I just double check it, make sure I've got my numbers right. The other thing though that I need your guidance on tonight is one of the things I have to put in our Title I plan that's due the coming week is you all did not have a retreat this year, so you did not set new strategic goals. And that's one of the things I have to put in. I have to tell when they're approved and what they are. And we don't have any because you didn't, other than the ones we've had the previous year, which were, I'm not sure the exact wording, but that 100% of our students will be on grade level reading by the end of third grade, and 100% of them will be on grade level by the end of third grade in math. And I've met with the principals, and Paul and I have had professional learning community meetings with them, and they kind of felt that that was, that's kind of unrealistic, and that we need to try to make our goals more realistic. So they set some goals for reading based on our Reading 3D, and then I kind of generalized those. And I prepared something for you tonight so that you can see what, generally what I would kind of recommend that we use for our goals.
And are you talking about those going to be attached to this application?
They're part of the application. And what we do is we start it, and then we can go in and I start a draft, and then they approve that part, and we can go in and change things.
So we can approve this just with these changes, and that would satisfy what you need for tonight, is that right?
So what I did was I took what they had suggested and made a general goal for our strategic plan. And I did 79% of Macon County students who raised K-3 will be proficient in reading by 2013-14. And that is in line with what our Reading 3D data is saying. That's got the specific ones on it. We actually, the goals we set at our professional learning community we actually did pretty well. We had predicted that we would move up from 68% to 80% at the end of the, from mid-year to the end of the year, or excuse me, beginning of the year to the end of the year. And we actually went, instead of going from 68 to 80, at the end of the year, we were at 73 this year. So I moved it up just a little bit. No, I didn't. 80 stayed the same. So we're saying that 80% of our kids. So it's very close. The principal's PLC said 80. The 79 is in line with what the new AMOs, or annual measurable objectives, for Title I. And also, they increased their TRC scores, which is that writing component that was pretty difficult for our children. We actually made some pretty good gains in that. We had said we wanted to go from 56 to 65, and we actually ended out the year at 77. So that was pretty good, 77%. No, sorry, 68. So we want to move it up 9% to 77 next year. But overall goal is your target that you're looking at, which is sort of in the middle. And it, again, is in line with what the 3rd through 8th grade have to reach. So if you'd like to change anything, that's just based on what we have, the work we've done with the principals.
If we achieve this,
Do what?
if we achieve this
We'll set a new goal in the next year.
within the region, 17 counties, will this allow us to shift off the bottom?
We don't know, because we don't have any data right now, you know, to work from.
When will
We
we
hope
get
so.
that? Is that October?
I don't
for this
know.
year?
Is it
The end of grade data will be
I don't
October.
know if we bounced off the bottom regional wise.
And we, you know, I think we're not moving real fast, but we are moving. I was pleased that we were above the state average in our composite scores and our TRC for reading 3D, which is good. We should be a little bit because we've been doing it longer than some districts have.
Do you think we'll be better than that 70% in reading at the end of grade 3?
We hope so.
Okay.
We've got to try. I mean, we're hoping to get up to 80 in composite so that we see that our core academic curriculum is working the way it ought to. Because one of the recommendations is that the 80% of your children reach their potential with the core, what the teachers do in the classroom. And then we have RTI and interventions and different things to help those children that are struggling. But we've still got to, we're still struggling to get the 80% that we get with core curriculum. So that's been our goal this year, is to try to get, you know, the 80%. And we've gotten fairly close.
And I guess some more of your topics tonight, I hope that program kicks us off at the bottom.
We hope so. Do you have any questions about that part?
We'll need to go back and make.
I think we need to change your motion to include the suggested guidelines as presented as part of the application.
Make a motion to 2013-2014 North Carolina Title I application be approved with the presented amendments.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hey, woke me up.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That's so moved. Thank you, Carol. Linda Bell contract.
Okay, you saw the figures for this last month, and after you approved the figures, they went back and adjusted the contract to match what you approved for figures. And this has been looked over by Mr. Henning, and Linda Bell actually took his suggestions from last year and voted into our contract.
Yeah, they've kept all the same ones from the word go. It's actually, this is the 3rd contract.
And they've been really good to work with, because they've actually done over and above what the contract says. You know, like we had 1 year, we could train 25 people, and they trained 55 for us. You know, so they've really gone over and above. It does include the training for those teachers that have already had VB training. They can now be trained on Cloud 9, which is sort of the visualizing for math. So, and we have so far about 20 teachers so far that have signed up for new Linda Rebuild training, and about 20 that have signed up for on-cloud 9 training. And we don't actually train till August, so I'm getting names trickling in every day or two because people have been checking their email, you know, over the summer. And when they finally get around to it, they're letting me know that they're interested.
This is still option 1, right?
Yes, option 1.
Just so we're clear on that, would you, again, for our media folks, would you spell out, Carol, where the funding for that's coming from?
It comes from Title I, and then we do a match with the at-risk funds from the state. So that, we have to use those at-risk funds for children that are needing interventions.
I guess what I'm trying to point out, no, there's not any local funding.
No local funds. And I have to meet with all the schools just for information to consult with the principals and
The national board certification.
There is one teacher that's on Title I, that's the differential pay for the national board. It's about
But as
$5,000.
far as the program itself,
No.
there's not any local funds that come into play.
Carol, let me ask you a question about people that can come to these workshops. Is that pretty much a solid figure?
No, they'll go as high as we have people that are interested.
At
That's why-
$200 a pop, too.
No, it's the same cost. They don't charge us more.
Schedule 5 says a flat fee for up to 25 workshop participants. Additional participants, $200 per additional, $200 per additional city stars.
But they don't charge us for that. That's in the contract, that's in the contract last year, and they let us come up to 55 without charging extra. So they've been good about that.
I mean, I understand some contracts and some I don't. I know what it says, and if we get a bill for $5,000 or $6,000 more because we had extra participants, I don't know that we've got any comeback to say, we did do that last year.
We can always limit it if we feel like that's going to happen. I usually check with them. They talk to us before we have the training anyway. But right now we're about 20, so I have room in both trainings for some more people. And Paula has some employees that hopefully will know who they are, and they'll need to fit in some of those slots.
Sandy, do we just need to be sure that what it says is what it says? And if they're going to give us free gratis, then at some point, we're giving them the authority to charge us significantly for extra people. And I just want to be sure that if their past practice has not been to do that, that business relationship would continue.
And what we would do is, or what we've done in the past is, like the week before, we say, okay, we've got this many people. Are you going to charge us more, or can they come? And they say they can come. So we would know before we did that, if they say this year we're going to charge you more, then we just cut it off and say, okay, these people can't go.
And the bottom line of the relationship is the contract. You can't, they would not have an enforceable means to collect from us more than what's set out in the contract. So,
no, my question is, they're saying that that there will be an additional participation fee. That's what we're agreeing to that. They have not charged us that in the past. And what we're saying now, Paul, from what I understand you saying, is that we can control that. If they say we're going to charge, and we say 25 is the limit, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want us agreeing to something that down the line, they in essence have cut us a deal of cutting $8,000 off. We walk in with 15 or 20 more participants, and all of a sudden, we're back up over the amount of money that we thought it was going to cost us as we went forward on this project, which I think is a great project.
I think we just check with them.
Would they be able to give that in writing, Carol? And at the time prior to that, would they have any objections saying, if we're going to teach 55, you would give us something to show that you were not going to charge us for that? Would that be too much to ask for them?
No, I guess they could do it. We have We actually, they had some people that came and visited our project, and they are going to go with the company this year. So they're very grateful for the opportunity for people to come here and see what we're doing in Macon County. But I don't mind at all to check.
Start making trades with them.
Well, that's what we do.
Next time you come see us, that's 5 years.
Yeah, and they have been pretty good. I mean, it's expensive, but just like they took off the contract, the amount, for the mentor, because they don't have to move her. She's already here. She'll just come back in the fall. They don't have to move her.
I'm not discouraging. I think it's great. I think we ought to do it. I just know when I'm sitting here looking at something that says you're going to charge me $200 for number 26, we need to check on that.
We call this and say, well,
John, that's in Schedule 5.
I'm looking at it now.
Well, I would think if we approve this, John, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Doug has a good point. However, we're just approving the no. There's nothing that says that if they were to incur other expenses, such that they would have to come back to the board for approval for that.
I mean, it does not say that in the contract.
Right. But if could our approval direct both Paul and Carol that prior to the incurrence of any other expenses, such as that it would need to come back for board approval prior to that taking place?
Yes.
Okay.
Just as between the board and Linda Moubell, if they decided to suddenly start playing hardball.
Charge that would need to be covered over and above the 25 that's stated in the contract.
Right.
Am I going down? Am I trying to be an attorney again?
No, you're doing fine.
Oh, okay.
Page 13.
You have any other questions?
And I think they have to know that we had a concern about that.
And they're fine with that. They're very open to. They've been very open to Mr. Henning's suggestions.
Did we train more than 25 in any session this year?
Yes. Our contract said 25. They trained about 55 in the fall. And we asked,
And this same wording was in the contract last year.
And they didn't charge us anything extra.
But also, they're probably, I would be trying to keep us going with them. Of course, at a point in time, I think there's the end.
Yes.
And when the end comes, are you going to get that letter that says we'd like to have our pay for the $200 for the extra people? At the end of the marriage, are they going to?
Well, I don't think so, because they still are going to want to use us as a demonstration site.
Well, it's an annual contract, Jill, so I don't think, they could in the last year, and we suddenly decided to want that. In other words, they can't do that retroactively, John. We have a 1-year contract, we're due annually. If they don't bill us, they can't bill us later on.
Well, we just saw a person here tonight.
All right.
It goes back 3 years or 2 years, and I'm sure they're researching contracts and those type of things.
I know, but I think we're looking at things that, I mean, we're looking at things that could possibly.
I think if that happens, we'll just tell them when the county commissioners meet and say goodbye.
We're yielding to you.
Well, I think the direction that Linda Moubell seems to be taking is that if this contract is approved this year, and the people are trained, that in essence, it will be our project from now on.
Yes. We'll have to have something.
Right, you have to have materials.
You got to have the training, and you've got to have your informs, which is their.
It's we're their advertisement in North Carolina anyway. So that's, we're their advertisement.
Yes, and they are trying to get some things going. They visited the state superintendent.
So first.
We're paying.
I think you made a very good point. I think the other thing with approval, we can add the addendum that if there are any additional expenses occurred, that should be come back for the board, such as the fee that we find out they were going to charge, it should come back to the board and get that approved.
Well, the only thing that we paid for last year that wasn't in the original contract was Paula she did a different little separate contract with them to get them to come and do on Cloud 9 training for some teachers, and they did it the same way. It said how many teachers, and they let anybody come that was willing, that was interested. So they're pretty good to work with about that. The main reason they put that in there is training materials so they sort of know what to expect. But when we email and say, Melissa, we have 55 people, what is this, is that going to affect anything? And then she emails us back and said, no, you can have as many as you want. And that's what we do this year. You know, if we have more people. We don't anticipate having 55 again because most people that want the training have already had it. And we've got some new hires that are interested and some people that their jobs are sort of in question that want to be trained. And even if you all don't approve them to be rehired, then they're a wonderful pool of substitutes for us, you know, for all these teachers that have been trained so that they can continue to have groups when the teacher's out sick. You have any other questions?
Keep those emails.
Oh, yeah. I think I'll ask then, is there a motion to approve subject to the contract with stipulation that any additional costs or fees that might be incurred would come back for the board for approval prior to incurring those costs?
I make a motion to accept contract as is, and unless they have any additional funds requested, then they'll have to come back for board approval.
There is a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? By saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Cowee Community Development bus usage. I don't see Mrs. Norton. Is she here? I don't see her.
She's not here tonight, but this is just a request to sort of go across the street, almost very much similar situation for that we do with the veterans or that we do with the community use organization at one time. Transportation issue that's not it's not a problem.
I make a motion to accept the bus usage as read.
Linda.
They do call me David, and they need to use 3 buses instead of 2. That's why I did that.
That's fine, but same thing, they're gonna pay for the drivers and everything, so.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're making motions to approve.
I make
that
a
change
motion
to
to,
three.
yes. Correct.
I second.
I have a motion to approve with one change, rather than fee for 2 buses, we'll have to do that we're actually approving the usage of 3 buses. Any other questions?
Call you back.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, Linda. Property use policies. If y'all remember last time I had John, we directed him to please examine our policies for usage and see if we might have any loopholes or any changes that might be needed. So John, I'll turn it over to you.
And so the long and the short of it is, I have collected for you here the board policies that you have in place that have any bearing on use of the property. You have forbidden trespassing or unauthorized use of the property. Your discipline and student code of conduct provides for discipline in the event of violation of that policy. Your policy on professional standards of conduct for all your employees requires them to safeguard school properties. And that's an element that you find in state law in statutes 115C-523 and 526. Those are, 523, I'm sorry, has the specific duty charged to every teacher and principal in charge of school buildings to instruct the children on proper care and maintenance. In short, between policy and state law, which of course also makes it a crime in 14-132 to specifically to deface or otherwise harm a school property, makes that a Class 2 misdemeanor. I think between your policy and what's set out in state law, it is clear as a bell that it is against your policy to be present without permission and without a school purpose on your properties, and it's certainly against your policy and state law to deface or otherwise harm those properties. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about that. Dr. Baldwin and I talked over the situation that happened at the high school. I got to tell you, I'm more than comfortable in having spoken through that whole situation with him that it was dealt with appropriately, and that's in terms of everybody involved. But if you have any questions about policy, I really don't see any need for changes in the policies at this time.
I think my intent was I'm looking at Mr. Woody, our new principal, and also Dr. Ball, to make sure that they have the tools they need, that we can start this new year and make sure that everybody's put on warning that certain activities will be tolerated and others will not be, and I think it's important that we give them. So it sounds like you're convinced that we have the capabilities of doing so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other school board members have any other questions? Thank you. Go back. Approval items, fund redistribution, Angie?
And we only have one, and it's for Highlands, and they're just moving some of their different activity accounts to clear up end-of-year stuff where they have some negatives and stuff, so take care of it.
You're in bookkeeping, in other words, correct?
Yes.
That's kind of a separate item. Do I hear approval for the Highland School fund redistribution? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. And a motion, all in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Yes, sir.
Was I not off to sleep?
I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me.
I'm trying to keep you awake.
I didn't hear you snore.
Board policy number 305, trespassing, slides unauthorized use of school property. Then I see board policy 810, board policy 450, board policy 708.
Mhm.
Did I sleep through that?
That's what John was just discussing.
That's all right. If you're having trouble falling asleep tonight, give me a call.
I didn't hear you talk about professional standards of conduct and performance.
Well, all of those policies are collected there together just to give you the broad brush picture of what board policy for, with an eye toward preservation of school properties was like.
Okay. I'm not doing a transition. When we talk about professional standards, can we talk about that? I mean, I just had a bullet number 2 and bullet number 10. I see clarification because we talked about this before, but I didn't see anything to change in that policy.
No, and no, sir, there's no change in any of these policies. This is just again to highlight.
We did change that. Whether it's been updated or not, I'm not sure, but we did change that.
But it's not before the board for a change.
No, sir.
It's not.
But the wording in bullet 2, which Mr. Shields is alluding to, has been changed.
But I don't see it changed here. Mr. Woody and Dr. Baldwin, you need to look at bullet number 2. What it says, I think it's impossible for 912.
I can't remember exact wording that we utilized.
No, you're right, and we did change it. This, I don't know, Renee, I don't know, she's not here to defend herself, but this came out of Renee's policy book.
This policy was updated, last updated January 23rd, 2020.
We updated it before.
Look at bullet number 2.
Here, I think we leave it at, I think this is the old version. If not, we can have them bring it back next meeting. I think this old version, I know that was changed, and we formally adopted, Mr. Morton, is that a policy where those changes were made? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
Just short now.
so what we'll do, Mr. Moore, if you would, for the next meeting, bring back so we can be clarified that those things have been taking place. I think that answers the question.
I think we did it at the same time that we did the,
You had a committee, didn't you?
yes, sir, but we did it at the same time we did the social networking.
Yes, it
I
was.
think it was
You're
sort of
exactly
all
right. It was
grouped
all
in together,
comprehensive.
if I remember correctly.
So I think this is just a reference point, Mr. Shields. It's not saying we hadn't changed it. I think what this was just John reviewed and was making sure we were giving our principal and our superintendent the tools to address to any things that take place on school property that's inappropriate.
But policy 708 in our big
Hey, Chris,
handbook
you bring us
is
in?
different.
And I'm not, I'll get you an answer. I'm not sure why the version that got before the board had that older language in it, but we did upload that.
Ms. Cantrell, are you looking at policy 708?
Tim's looking at it on
That's the
the,
one that's on our board website, so that should be the official version, but it's not.
Uh-oh. Let me go get my book and see.
Mr. Shields, why don't we, while they're doing that, why don't we move forward and get the other things, we'll come back to that. Will that work?
I'm not back on.
Go ahead and nod back on. All right, Angie, we're still moving forward then with the final budget amendments. And what we'll do is we'll just go over all of these. They're all in the, we'll put them in mass.
Okay. These were the final budget amendments for the year ending, and the only additional revenue is under state, which you'll see, or you probably saw, I was only able to do the state and the federal before Renee actually had to post, so you have the others as copies in your folder. The $611,000 additional revenue on the state side is mainly made up of the 009 code, which is the benefits and longevity and annual leave payouts that the state picks up for those people who are on state. And we just do one amendment at the end of the year, and that covers all of it.
Okay.
So that's the big increase on that one. The next one is the local, and those are just cleaning up one line item to another. There's no additional revenue.
Federal?
Same thing with federal. And the additional in capital outlay is the appropriation of the $1.5 million for QZAB that we have for Highlands and the $1.7 million for Iowa Valley. And $8,000, they appropriated an additional $8,000 to our budget, and I didn't realize this till last week when I was trying to balance this, but they did that for the Nantahala windows. So the additions that you see on the capital outlay side are just to put those on our side, on our books. Child nutrition is just, sorry Tim.
Okay, I'm get that.
Child nutrition is just moving from one line item to another to close the year out. There is an increase in there just because I had to increase the budget because there was more expenditures than there was revenues on this.
There was more expenditures from the child nutrition than there were revenues, I thought.
Yes,
Our
sir.
report's been getting that was not the case, and we
Yes,
actually
sir.
were.
Now, there are entries that the auditors will make when they come
Uh-huh.
that will account for the biggest part of that, but we had several expenditures over the last, well, right at in springtime, there was several purchases made, unapproved purchases that were
Right.
made.
But we're not, this is not an indicator of ongoing issues. We should be fine moving forward.
We should be
based on what
fine.
we're seeing. Is that
I
right?
actually talked to the auditor today, and I think we're gonna be fine. He will give a full report when he comes in September, but this is
Okay.
what he suggested I do in the meantime.
Got you. I'm all for that. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions, Vandy? If not, your motion that we approve all the final budget amendments.
So moved.
Have a motion, or a second? Gary, did you give me a second so that you're clear? I thought maybe. Okay. Okay. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved. Continuing budget resolution, Angie.
This is just to continue the 13-14 school year until we can actually form an actual official budget.
Standard thing we have to do. We have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. The next thing is, I think in your packet, Dr. Duncan has given you a copy of the resolution that he has drafted. I don't, it wasn't attached to, it's in your, that's a subject in your BGoard folder. Everybody should have.
Angie, are those in all folders?
Yes, that should be. Should be towards the back.
I've got it, in case anyone didn't have one, I think everybody's in the folder. There we go, everybody's got it.
You got yours, I think. Here.
No, I think everybody's good. I think everybody's got one. Did you not have one?
Except Dr. Duncan.
Basically, I think this is something we discussed, and I had clarified with our commissioners when they had their budget hearing. If we would like to have, which I think we've all agreed to, we just need to put formally to transfer, we have discretionary use of the supplement, that we need to make a formal request that they move that into our, I think if I bring this down, into our current expense a lot. And this is something we need to approve that we can forward to the Board of Commissioners. Are there any questions?
Well, that is the whole 430,000 or
Yes.
just half of it?
the whole amount.
Don't you just really just need half though?
At this point, we're asking for full discretion.
So no supplement to the teachers?
We're not saying that, we're just saying at this point, we're not sure. We're hoping to do that, we're just asking that they not make the decision, that they allow us to make that
Well, they
decision.
already said you could, but the last.
But they wanted to have a formal written. They did verbal, but they asked us to do it formally written. Okay.
Now, this is just a request that we be allowed to use that money
And of discretion.
as does not absolutely have anything to do with whether or not.
You're gonna do it?
Right.
Okay.
That's a decision that the board will make, and the authority of the board, that's where it should be, that they have the authority to make the expenditures.
The board and you guys.
Correct.
Right.
Any discussions? If not, I hear a motion to be approved, the formal request.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, I think it was necessary. Board Judge, I think that's, except for moving into possible management, was there anything else, Dr. Duncan? It's not on, that's anything on information from you or Board of Education information? That's not on the, that was not on the agenda?
No, just let me express my appreciation to you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Cave during his time as chairman, and the school board members for their support this year and the interim process. It's been an interesting year, been a challenging year, been a productive year. I think all of us have learned a lot, including me, but it's been a pleasure to spend my 44th year in public education with Macon County School Board and to find people that work and support this organization. And I know it will continue on in good hands, and this board is looking out for whatever's there. It's called the best interest of students, and I appreciate that, and we want to continue to look forward to that. So just express my appreciation to you and I've told the staff that, but thank you for your guidance and support this year.
I think you started with it about 8 years.
Yeah, 4 years, so you're 18?
Yeah.
About 44 years? There you go.
Right.
I
Started when I was 12.
I made him promise not to move out of the county as soon as this was up. He said he wouldn't, so.
I think when we recognize Dr. Duncan at a luncheon, Angie, that's Wednesday
Yes.
at
Noon.
I encourage all the board members to come to that if you possibly could. This Wednesday we'll be here here, and we'll be recognizing Dr. Duncan's various things.
Where is
So,
it at?
it's here,
Just like this room?
next door, and spread out to the room yet. Okay, so hopefully y'all can make it. We'll probably, we'll drag us out. I got one, she's ready to go. We'll be recognizing Dr. Duncan more so at that time.
I didn't bring in an item. I'm not sure, but Dr. Baldwin's attending a superintendent's conference. He's kind of back and forth here. But I have in my office a hard hat that that I will probably present him with. So it comes with the office, Chris. So it's there, and it fits.
Protection I can get.
Yes, and I've never worn it to a board meeting, so so that's good. And,
before we consider then going into closed session, Mr. Shields, did you get a copy? Did you still have any other questions about that particular policy on conduct? Do we need to revisit that before we go, or no?
I just knew on that policy it was contingent on, I'd have to vote no.
That is definitely the old version of the policy.
Okay.
We'll figure out what happened.
Actually, we didn't take any action for information purposes, but.
I thought that was,
Right.
what was the oldest time?
What we'll do is, we'll have the new version for our review next meeting to make sure that it's proper. We didn't take any action, just made it, John brought out for information. Anything else before the board at this time? If not,
What are you going to closed session for?
I was about to have Mr.
Personnel?
I'm about to read
Mr. Henry wants to read that right now. Mr. Henry, if you would.
Yes, sir. It's the purpose expressed in GS 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee.
Take motion going to close.
Have a motion here, second.
Are you gonna have an announcement afterwards?
Yeah, hang on.
Dr. Duncan said it shouldn't be that long, and there are some things that I think we'll be discussing that you all may want to hear, so we'll try to, I'm sorry, we'll try to get as much as we can. I have a motion there. I missed a second. Yeah, Linda did. Who gave me a second to move into it? Mr. Shield did. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? So moved. Yes, I think.
Yeah, you're bringing it.
Radio media is still here.
Yeah, radio.
And Macon media is still here.
Okay. This time, I entertain a motion to come in open session. So moved. Have a second.
Oh, sorry.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. At this point, before we're doing, Dr. Doug, I think you had something that we're going to make an announcement for the
Right,
meeting people that are here, correct?
Previously, we had a number of teachers that were not reemployed because of the funding situation. That is improved to the point that we can advertise positions that may be available in our school system. I would encourage anyone who wants to apply for those positions to apply for them and move forward. They should contact the central office or the principal of the school for which the vacancies are listed and move forward with that process. And at this time, we're not exactly sure how many total positions are out there and available, but the funding has improved so that we can offer employment to qualified individuals who may be selected by their principals.
Any other business that come before this board at this time?
I'd like to make a motion
Yes, Mr. Gill.
that the Patricia Davis, Director of Accountability, contract be approved.
For renewal. Second. That'd be for a renewal for a 4-year period as called for recommended by state statute. So we have a motion to renew the administrative contract for our Director of Accountability right now, Mrs. Davis. Do I hear a second? I think I had it right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Any other motions that need to come before the board?
I'd like to, I'm not sure this is a motion or just FYI. I'll do it as a motion that we have a continuous meeting on July the 3rd at 6 p.m. in this room here.
Maybe we're going to have a motion to, that we'll have a continuance of this meeting on July the 3rd to consider whatever matters need to come before the board at that time. I have that motion. Do I hear a second? Second. I have a motion and second that we'll have a continued meeting on July the 3rd. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Any other information needs to come before the board at this time?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. And a second. All in favor, signify by standing up and saying goodbye. Thank you very much.